Without a doubt, the formation of women's gangs could take place in countries where the situation with men's gangs was considerably worse. A woman is never reckless just like that without a serious reason. The economical situation and the unemployment rate are of great importance. Some of the countries on the list have already emerged from the situation that made the formation of women's gang structures the main motive. Others don't. So here are great 5 examples of when women are becoming, well, truly dangerous. You're watching Flip Side of History. Today we will discuss women's gangs around the world. Keep watching. Sicily. Of course, such a criminal place as this Mediterranean island could not but give birth to a purely female gangster community. It was organized by an islander named Nuncio D'Amico. At first, she gained a solid position in the classic kind of clan, where there were people of different genders, because her 3 brothers who were trying to sell a large batch of drugs were taken by the cops. And as a whole, such work was better for the beautiful Nuncio than for her family. It simply flooded first Sicily and then the entire south of the Italian peninsula with cocaine. And there they go. The protagonist of this Italian dark story hired only women, although many of the journalists and detectives believe that the role is too exalted. Probably could be that, but later the dubbed heroine, Anna Scarrallo, is already a woman from a bunch of photos and videos. It was she who headed the Ponticelli crime family, and the police took her right outside of the house. The next is Japan. At a time when the land of the rising sun was shattered by economic depression, even women here had to become warriors to survive. That's why all sorts of anime about a schoolgirl with a samurai sword didn't come out of just thin air. The prototype of the main people of these plots was the girl gang Skiban, who later grew so many branches throughout the country that at a certain stage it could even be called within fashion or movement. Many of its representatives were really good at the traditional sharpening skills and cutting weapons of the Japanese archipelago. This was proved in the bloody showdowns. In them, the male and female forces are pretty balanced. The most distant consequence of those depressed times was the youth subculture, which retained the name of a criminal phenomenon that spread from the cities of Tokyo and Osaka. Now, Brazil. Everyone knows that the police never poke their noses into the favelas, poorly built neighborhoods. But the inhabitants of the favelas are traditional in terms of values, despite everything. The gang of blondes was easier to spot in the most ordinary and even prestigious neighborhoods of São Paulo. After all, dyed girls had good clothes, usually a good education, and spoke at least a couple of foreign languages. And one was even a student in the university for elites. These facts made it very difficult for potential victims to suspect them. We are talking about young ladies who were kidnapped by blondes right at the exit from expensive shopping centers and boutiques. However, they did not ask for a ransom. They just asked for cash from the banking card after visiting the store, and then simply give it to them. The humongous gang is still alive today. The group is divided into 2 wings. One of them is engaged in kidnapping and intimidation of the victim, and the other wing is responsible for cashing in purchases. They always cooperate. Officials at the São Paulo police headquarters said that the gang had been on record for 4 years and had robbed at least 50 women. That's absolute minimum estimation. The most significant business robbery committed by the gang was the stolen 9,000 American dollars, which they spent on purchases in electronics stores and well-known clothing brands. Joaquim Dias Alves, head of the kidnapping unit of the São Paulo police, noted that the victims of this criminal group are exclusively foreigners and also, well, blondes. Let's move on. Zimbabwe. In most countries of the world today, it is obviously more natural for women to be robbed, beaten, and raped, but not in the named state. Here, on the contrary, it is scary for men to go out into the dark streets. Most often, Zimbabwean women who don't give a damn about the law are interested in forced physical intimacy. Of course, the man is stronger, therefore gangs of fortune hunters walk in packs. What does luck have to do with it, you might ask, or why do they do it? It's just according to local beliefs, it is the male seed that bears such grace as success in everything. And that explains everything. And in Africa, traditions are valued more than anywhere else on the planet. The victims of robbers in the land of gold were not only ordinary guys, often unarmed, but even military men and policemen who came across them on the high road. At different times, including in the 21st century, local women took turns when raping men, torturing them along the way, and then leaving them to die in some secluded area. Valuables, of course, were kept for themselves. A ritual may be enough? No, it doesn't bother to satisfy lust and solve material problems either. And here is an excerpt from the official local news. Police in Zimbabwe are on the trail of a mysterious and elusive gang of rapists who have been assaulting men and committing crimes of sexual kind. The offenders acted for ritual purposes, and their prey was male semen. They looked for victims among lonely men on the highway, whom they agreed to give a ride to the right place. 3 women were arrested by police in the town of Gweru on suspicion of involvement in a series of gang rapes. During the search, 31 used condoms were found in their car. Thus, the alleged perverts are 3 20-year-old girls. According to the police, over the course of 2 years, a gang of women raped more than a dozen people, one of the victims being a law enforcement officer. According to the victims, the criminals usually offered to give them a ride by hitchhiking. Since they were allegedly on the way in the car, the next victim was usually given a drink mixed with sleeping pills. Consequently, the man who fainted was abused. In other cases, the offenders acted more rudely. At gunpoint, they forced a fellow traveler to go with them to the apartment, where he was also raped. These abuses ended harshly. The dishonored men were robbed and dumped on the side of the road in a deserted place, alone. By the way, accomplices could remain at large. In some cases, 4 women are known to have been involved in a rape. The next country is Honduras. Some analysts are generally inclined to consider a small power to be the main Sodom and Gomorrah of humanity. Statistics related to tourists in this country predispose to this. But the victims here are not only visitors, but in general pretty much everyone who does not have a firearm. Honduras is, sadly, the most striking example of lawlessness in all spheres of life. And it's not surprising that it is in this place that powerful gangs have formed, continuing to quarrel with each other even after they find themselves behind bars. After all, it is the worst of the prison women's gangs of Honduras that have now come to the first position in terms of their mass scale and very cruel consequences. The most recent case was when some villains burned alive a cell with 46 of their colleagues. And this is the question to you. What kind of female gangs do you know? Let us know in the comments down below. You were watching Flip Side of History. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.